welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Eshom and Ian Nelms.
How's it going?
Good. Directors of Right Red Hand, which comes out February 23rd. It's cool to have you guys here.
It's an honor to be here, man. Great to chat with you, Neil.
Yeah. So, for people not aware, can you give them an idea of what Red Right Hand is about?
Yeah, it's about a guy who used to work for a kingpin. He's trying to straighten his life out, get back to the family life, and she comes back calling. She comes back to try to reel him back in.
So, did you guys know the writer Jonathan Easley before you guys got involved in the movie?
We did not. No, not at all. And we're happy we do now.
You still don't know, but no.
Yeah, when his script landed on our desk, man, we were instantly smitten with it. The dialogue popped, the characters leapt off the page. We were riveted, and we were like, man, let's dig into this.
Yeah. Now you guys are from California, because I've looked this up, and so filming a movie about the Appalachian area, like what kind of preparation do you do to make sure like you make something that's realistic to the area?
We are from California, but we're not like city.
Okay.
We grew up in a town of about 3,500 when we were living there, butted up against the Sierra Forest, called Woodlake, California, and we grew up on a 10-acre horse ranch, sort of in the middle of nowhere. And there's a lot of common thread between Woodlake, California, and Louisville, Kentucky, which more specifically shot in Knob Creek, which is old bootlegger country up there in the hollers, and there's a lot of parallels between those two environments and those two demographics. I mean, obviously the dialects change and there's some cultural differences, but there is a surprising amount of overlap. And the people and the privacy and the way of life. The way of life there is very similar to where we grew up. So we definitely felt a kinship with where we were shooting and with the folks we were shooting with down there. And I think when we went down there, it exploded like off the screen, off the page. You know what I mean? Like going down there, reading the script, because Jonathan's from that area, so going down there and getting into the thick of Kentucky, like, man, the location has just added so much to the shoot.
What so you finding like locations actually film, like the house and different places? Was it hard to find like the right house?
It was. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. It was. There's a lot of small farms there, but finding the right one that had all of the sort of accessories, accoutrements that we were looking for was a little tricky. And we looked high and low. We spent several days roaming around the country in the hollers up there, and before we found that magic one. Yeah, we were looking for things with a lot of history, and both of those pieces of property, Big Cats and the family farm, were both like turn of the century, like early 1900s, when the family that found those lands and started building things on them. Like that's when those pieces of property were founded and the structure started going up. Now layers have been put on top of them by this point, which we loved. But yeah, we loved the history of the land and the pieces of property that we picked up.
You guys put together an amazing cast. It's like everyone in it is a lot of people that people will see in other things and like, oh, I really like this guy and whatever. So like, how hands-on are you guys putting together the cast for the movie?
Immensely. I mean, I would say it's our most one of the most important jobs is like getting the right people for every role, right? And there's a lot of people that have to agree with your choices. And it's a collaboration to the fullest extent. But yeah, we are heavily involved in that. And luckily, the producers that we had and the production companies we worked with were all on board with sort of our vision of it. And that really is kind of how it started, right? We read the script, we had ideas of who we thought we wanted to cast in it. That was part of the pitching process, right? Of like, hey, we love this. This is what we do. This is who we see in it. Do you guys like this sort of side of it that we're pitching? And thankfully they did. So that was we got the job and we're off and running. But for us, that was one of the most exciting elements was the cast and who we thought we might be able to see it on that screen. We really tried to cast people that, especially with like Orlando and Andie, like in roles that you hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
With Orlando, he came right to our minds when we were reading it. And because we'd never seen him do anything like it. And we'd actually met him a couple of years previous. So he was on the top of our minds because we were looking for a project to work on with him. And this one, we were like, man, if he likes this could be really exciting because I've never seen anything near this.
Yeah, I don't know if I would have known it was him if I didn't know going into the movie. Released right away, yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, that was the goal, and I think he achieved it. I mean, that's all on his shoulders. He went out there, he worked tremendously hard to pull it off.
Yeah. Now, I know you guys have, obviously, you've directed Mel Gibson and now a lot of huge actors, but what is that experience like to direct? And I don't mean like, oh, this is a big star, but like veteran actors who probably you would think already know their craft. Is it ever hard to direct them like, hey, I think you should do it this way? Or is like they professional, like they'll take advice?
Well, first of all, they're all consummate professionals, or else they wouldn't be achieving.
Right.
Right. But for us, look, there's no two actors that are the same. Everybody works differently, and it's our job to get in there and figure out how to collaborate the best with each actor. So everybody needs a little bit different approach, and we try to figure out how we can all work the best together.
Yeah, and I mean, thankfully, the people we worked with have just been so damn talented. Like, like you were saying, like, is it hard to direct them? It's not really, because when you have those first conversations with them, we all get on the same page. They're really good. The good actors are really good at sinking into, okay, yeah, I want to play this character. Now let's make sure that the directors have the same vision for this as I do, or at least that we're on the same page. And then the other side of it is, I mean, we're looking for actors to bring something to it. So you put people like Walton Goggins or Mel or Marianne Jean-Baptiste, or in this case, Orlando, Andie, Garret Dillahunt. I mean, the list goes on, Brian Garrity. Like, we're pretty deep with really talented people.
And they're all bringing everything that I think of to it.
Exactly. We have something Jonathan's written something on the page. Eshom and I have an interpretation in our head. You get out there and the actors are bringing, even more to it than that. And that's what you want. You want those people that are really going to swing,
Yeah. I mentioned Garret Dillahunt. I always enjoy him in anything. And I also like that he plays a preacher who's actually a good person. And I'm not even a religious guy, but I think it's a big, like, it's like a cop-out to always have the preacher, the priest, whatever, is like either a pedophile or a demon, or there's some type of evil character.
Yeah, I think that's been a trope, throughout the more recent years here. We certainly didn't mind deviating from that, and we were very excited to get Garret in the role as Wilder. He did a fantastic job.
Garrett's so talented, man. He's one of those guys that I would watch read the phone book. He's just one of those actors that's so good. He's just so interesting to watch. And he was like, what if I shave my head for this? And that actor idea. Really bringing a lot, and really thinking a lot about his character, taking a lot of care in it.
Yeah. This might be a weird question. What's the contrast of directing action scenes as opposed to like dialogue heavy scenes, and which is more fulfilling as a filmmaker?
I mean, I think it's tough to say which is more fulfilling. They're both like different gears, right? So they each take different skill sets. I think for us, you really, the camera work is important. The lighting's paramount. And obviously then you get in there and you work with the actors and the blocking. So they're hand in hand. There's no two that I prefer to do. No one I prefer to do.
Yeah. It's almost like, what do you prefer, writing or directing? Like it almost takes a different side of your mind, because luckily Eshom's a professional storyboard artist. So he storyboards the heck out of the entire film, but especially, a lot of effort is put into those action sequences. We'll get the location. It's written. You get to the location, it changes. Okay, now that he's got to turn left instead of right here, the car's got to be here instead of driving up a hill. Whatever, everything changes once you actually get to the real location. So it's a puzzle piece to try to. You've already sort of directed it on the page. We try to get it out beat for beat of what we think and how we think the shots are going to be. But then it's a reinvention once you actually get there. Dialogue scenes are a little bit of a reinvention, but the intention never really changes.
If they're sitting in a chair, they're sitting in a chair.
They're sitting in a chair somewhere. You know what I mean? It's not like, okay, we don't have that. With the action sequence, it's like the shrub's not there. There's no tree there. Let's think of what he can be hiding behind, or how he can move, or how they don't see each other between this moment, and then how they come together and butt heads. But yeah, it definitely does feel like a different muscle directing those. And what do I prefer? I think I prefer both of them, or we wouldn't be doing so many movies with so much action in them. We like it. It's fun. And
I will say, like, once you get kind of burnt out on, a movie like this where it's got a lot of action in it, and you're like, oh, thank goodness we're doing a more dramatic scene.
Can they just sit and talk?
Yeah, and then you get kind of cooked on the dramatic scenes. You're like, oh, thank goodness we're going to do some action tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, when I talked to Scott earlier, Scott Haze, he had mentioned you don't see movies like this a lot anymore, and I agree. It's because usually when people say action, it's like what they consider popcorn film. It's kind of ridiculous, and but this is like I don't want to say real movie, but it's a dramatic movie. It's got both action and a good story and great acting.
Yeah, I don't know if it's realistic, but we definitely try to ground it. You know what I mean? Like we try to make it grounded so that and I just say that as almost a negative on ourselves. It's not realistic, right? Like we try to make it as realistic as possible, but it's definitely not realistic. I mean, it's so movies are so entertaining based. You know, they're so like everything's happening all at once, which probably wouldn't be happening all at once. It'd be.
But is it gun fu, like the more centric stuff?
Yeah, we don't lean into that in these. We do love some gun fu once in a while, but we're definitely more into the grounded aesthetic.
For us, it's the character work that gets you invested in the stakes of the gunfights,
and then hopefully you're willing to go.
Yeah. So I thought it was great, Red Right Hand, not just because you guys are here, and I hope people check it out. And where could they look online to see what theaters they'll be able to see Red Right Hand?
For me, I don't want to start pumping apps, but I have a couple of apps that I look at, you know, that can definitely give me what theaters movies are playing in near my area. So I would say check your local whatever app you use or whatever website you go to or whatever movie chain you're a part of that's close to you.
And then obviously the usual suspects for on demand. You know, all the movies there.
All right, very cool. I really like the movie. I also love Fat Man. And so I look forward to seeing more from you guys.
Big love, Neil. Thank you, man.
Appreciate you guys. Welcome to the Station of Decapitation Without Your Head. I'm Nasty Neil. I'm joined by Scott Haze, Finney of the Red Right Hand. It's cool to have you here.
Hey, great to meet you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. For people not aware, can you give them an idea of what the movie's about?
Red Right Hand comes out on the 23rd. Orlando Bloom, Andie MacDowell, a beautiful cast, directed by the Nelms brothers, action-packed thriller with from everything you can imagine, humor, action, drama, some horror, if you will. A lot of things are going on in this movie, and it's a really fun film. I'm excited for you to see it.
Yeah, so I got to see it. I really liked it a lot. And as you said right away, a great cast. When you get a role like that and basically everyone in the cast is a veteran actor with a few exceptions. What's that like? What's that experience like to be working with so many, people like yourself?
It's amazing. I did a movie called Only the Brave many years ago now with Josh Brolin and that crew about a bunch of firefighters, and Andie was in that film, and I met her there. So to see her this many years later back on set was really fun. I didn't have any scenes with her, but the whole cast really knew how to take care of the story that we were trying to tell. And that's what you get with people who've worked a lot. That's the difference, is they have that experience. It's like on a basketball team, Yeah.
How about Chapel Oaks, who plays your daughter in the movie? So she's doesn't have the experience because she's much younger.
Well, that's amazing you bring that up because, she gets an introducing credit because this is her big introduction. She was phenomenal, and that's all the Nelms brothers. They did a massive search, and they tried to find somebody who could bring the gravitas to her role that is needed, but also still be very young and be intelligent enough to pull off what she pulls off in this movie. And she was just phenomenal, and I'm really excited to see where she's going to go in her path.
Yeah. You mentioned the brothers. What is that like, and how does that work? So two people directing the movie. And they're brothers, so I don't know if they butt heads, how well they get along.
No, I mean, it's amazing that they have this certain method of directing where one brother looks after one element and the other brother looks at the other element. So you actually get 4 eyeballs instead of 2, all in unison, and they work so fluidly together. I loved it. I was like, this is the way all movies should be. There should be more directors who are focused on one specific thing, and they really trust each other. So whoever's got the other lane, they trust that lane's covered. And yeah, they're really special directors. I'm grateful to have worked with them on this film.
So had you known them beforehand, or did you get to know them through Red Right Hand?
No, but what's oddly enough is like 20 years ago, Ash and I both worked at the same ArcLight theater in Hollywood at the same time, and we both got fired around the same time, and we didn't know that until
Sure.
our first dinner. I was like, I worked at ArcLight when I first moved to LA, and he's like, I did too, and we were there at the same time. So that's the closest I knew them. We passed each other at work before we both got fired.
Yeah, and if you didn't both get fired, you might not have went on to make Red Right Hand in the future.
Yeah.
Right.
I think we both just loved movies, so we wanted to, as young kids, we just wanted to be around movies as much as we can.
Orlando Bloom, who plays your brother, and you guys have great chemistry together. What is it like working with Orlando Bloom?
Listen, I was really impressed with Orlando. He really put a lot of time and effort and took this really serious, and I think it shows. I think that, I just think he's such a special guy, and I think people will love his performance.
Something I really like about your character and your character arc in the movie is it really shows a good job. I don't give too much away of the movie, but of your character, the differences on and off alcohol, and also how that affects everyone in his family, not just himself.
I don't know about, for me, I know a lot of alcoholics in my life over my whole lifetime, and their lives are either really thriving and they're on top of it and they're on top of their addiction. And some addicts and alcoholics are the highest functioning people in society if they have their, ducks in a row. But I've also known many people like Finney where it's just complete disaster, unmanageability, and powerlessness over a substance. And he's in the throes of addiction. And that doesn't mean he's a bad guy. It just means that he's just really, he has the flu, really bad flu, but it's called alcoholism.
And I always wonder, like, for when someone plays a character arc like that, not so much like from point A to point B, but the stuff in the middle. Like, so do you film that all in order? And I would think sometimes it would be harder to play like your character. It's not just he's sober or he's drunk. It's like layers when he's trying to get clean.
Well, it's not a play, right? So the first day was my last scene, and so we always shoot out of order sometimes depending on location. So the first day I filmed was one of the last scenes of my character in the film.
Interesting.
Well, I look at the schedule. I was like, oh wow, we're starting off with a bang. Like we gotta get a, it's how movies go.
Yeah, I mean, you even look much healthier. I know it's a movie and everything, but you might look much different. It's odd to me that it was filmed that way, just for the character.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I actually looked this up. I was like, I wonder if you're actually from like the Appalachian area, because I know you've done some other roles like in that area, but you weren't. So, how do you prepare to play a character from any area, I guess? So you make sure it's realistic.
I went to, you can't say Louisville, they'll kill you. We shot in Louisville.
All right.
So what I did on this film is I went there a couple months before the movie started, and I would go into this local bar and I would just talk to people. And if somebody had a really interesting accent, I'd say, hey, can I buy you a beer, and go in the car and have you read some of this script on a voice recording. And then they'd be like, oh, what? They thought I was like, they thought I was hitting on them. And then I was like, no, this is not like something sexual. I just really need your accent. You have the best accent. I found these 3 guys and I just patterned it after them, because I think there's 3 iterations of where Finney kind of goes through. And I wanted all 3 of these voices in the character. And that's how I found the accent. And so I go to the town normally and I find a local who I just really, that's the native language. And that's how I find the accent.
Oh, that's interesting, because I'm from Massachusetts, so it's very annoying when I hear almost any Boston accent in a movie. It's so over the top and silly. So I think that's a good advice for anyone, even if you're not playing someone in the Appalachians.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, like you said, it's a very complicated character. So it was, what interested you when you saw the script?
I think that a lot of movies like this don't get made anymore. That's what interests me. This is a action-packed drama, but has thriller elements, and it's got suspense, and that's what drew me to it. Is that, and the brothers, meeting the brothers and seeing what they are about, how they roll, and if I thought we could make something special, it's a no-brainer. Because not, like I said, I felt like it was one of the best scripts I've read in a long time, because it had all the elements of a fun action-packed movie, and those are hard to get made. that aren't in the studio system.
Right. And when you say, because I think some people will think if you say a fun action movie, like what someone will say a popcorn movie, but, there's a lot of interesting characters, great dialogue. It's not, it's got like you said, it's not necessarily a movie like you really see anymore. It's more, you see TV series are more like this.
Yes, that's right. It's a good example.
Yeah. So where was it shot? Was it shot in that actual area?
Yeah, it was shot right there, Louisville, right during
right.
Right during the Kentucky Derby. It was a beautiful city. I love that city so much. It was such a fun time. That's the beauty of making movies, and why I feel so grateful is you get those moments in between the wartime of like making the film to enjoy the city you're in, and that city was just so lovely. I loved it. I love Kentucky.
What's the difference for an actor, being in like actually outside in like an actual house and stuff as opposed to like a fabricated set?
Well, there's just there's a reason why Christopher did what he did with Oppenheimer. Like he went to as much lengths as he could to bring the real locations to life in that film. And if you watch Oppenheimer, it bleeds authenticity, So there's an element where if you look at a movie like Venom, when I come in and I meet Tom's character, that's a set, and there's and there's a different energy you feel. It's amazing too, but there is another layer when you're on a real location in a set, and the person up the street when you go drive off set has the same accent versus somebody who has a different accent in a different city. It just really bleeds authenticity, and that's what I get from this film. I watched it last night for the first time, and it just transports you there.
Yeah. So you haven't had a chance to watch with an audience yet?
No, I haven't. No.
Do you think you will?
Well, the premiere's next week, so I'll probably go sit through the film at the premiere.
Yeah. Did you normally like to watch movies, your own movies? Not like you sit around watching them all the time, but when they.
No, it's interesting. No, not really. But if I like the movie, like I for sure will watch it. It's just funny. Like you're a horror guy, so when you probably saw Antlers, the movie I did with.
Oh, I love Antlers. That was actually my favorite horror movie that year. Yeah. It's a fantastic. And if you don't believe me, we have a video review. Me and my friend Annabelle on the website.
Oh man, that one was like I lost 82 pounds for that role, and it was like as gnarly as it gets. But I knew that I got the chance to play one of my favorite heroes in cinema, Guillermo del Toro. He created a monster I got to play. So it's amazing. But I remember that time being so hard. So every movie has a different thing when I see it on the screen. It takes me back to that time in life. And it's actually like a really special thing too at the same time. Because when I like Red Right Hand, I remember that city and I remember the people, I remember the locals. I just feel really lucky and grateful, to be honest with you. When I see the movies, I'm like, wow, I got to do that. Thank you.
Yeah. And just Antlers, I think there's been a few movies about the Wendigo, but I think that's the best depiction of the Wendigo legends.
I agree with you. I'm a little biased, but I agree with you.
Yeah, no, it's a great movie. I'm also a big fan of Garret Dillahunt anytime I see him anything. And usually, almost always, if there's a religious guy, preacher, priest, whatever in a movie, they're always some type of villain of various levels. So it's nice to see someone he was actually a good person in the movie, a good guy, a hero.
Yeah, he's the best in real life too, man. We're friends and we'll be friends forever. He's a great guy.
And you mentioned Andie MacDowell, and this is a much different role for her, and she's fantastic in it. And I know you didn't get to have a scene with her, but
no, it's amazing. I did Only the Brave with her years ago now, and this is the second movie I've done with her, and she's just phenomenal. She's just phenomenal in this movie. I can't wait for people to see Andie MacDowell play this role.
Looking at you, I can't picture you losing 84 pounds. Like, I don't know if there'd be much left to you. So.
Well, no, that's a good point. I came off of a movie where I had to put on weight. So I was 220 when I started that process. And I ended up on that one day on set, I did a weigh-in like it was a fight. I wanted to see how much I lost. I was at 138. So.
Damn, well, that's pretty impressive. How about, we talked about it's an action movie, but also great dialogue stuff. how physically demanding was the role for you?
The Finney and Red Right Hand. It's did you jump to Antlers or Finney? Which one are you?
Finney. We're sticking at Finney, but yeah.
And Finney was how physically demanding. Like I said, I've done parts like the Antlers role where Finney's not that physically demanding on based on the stuff I've had to do. So it was I didn't find it physically demanding per se.
What's the vibe like on set when there's a fight scene, violent scene, and there's a young girl involved?
Well, Chapel is just like, she's just a phenomenal human. So you feel like you're in the room with an adult. It's one of those things where when you watch the film, it's very different than when you're filming it. It's not as scary, or it's more of a dance.
Yes.
So I think that she doesn't really scare that easily. I think, thank God, because she probably would have not done the role as well. There's a lost.
Yeah.
Like if they didn't they cast a very brave young woman, let's put it that way. So she was able to handle the fight sequences great.
So Red Right Hand, it coming out soon. I have the date here. I don't have the date. February 23rd. Select theaters and video on demand, so people go check it. I really liked it. I also want to let you know I'm a big fan of yours, of you and Child of God. I actually didn't even realize you were in Antlers. And I think that's because you do change your physical appearance a lot in these movies, which is a compliment.
Oh, man, thank you. I love your setup behind you, too, with all those toys. I have something similar in my house. That's great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All right. Thanks for doing this.
Great to meet you. Thank you.
Yeah.